What's going on, guys? Sorry, I missed the last week. I think the last 2 weeks. Just been really busy. So here I am back with another episode. So what are we going to talk about today? I'll make this to the point. One, I will be ranting about Instagram at a certain point in this podcast. I will let you know before that happens. To start the day off, we got CPI data coming in tomorrow. So I want to talk a little bit about that. And we'll do a review of the posts I've done and be able to talk about some of them in depth. Starting with this whole notion that we're going to have a lot of rate cuts. So let's start there. First and foremost, here's my opinion on where we are with things right now in the economy. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that we're stretching things a little bit to the extreme now. And someone might say, well, what are you talking about? NVIDIA is carrying us and we're about to go into this new AI revolution and you're going to miss the boat. Look, there's no one that's ever more bullish on America than me. I love it. I don't think we're ever going to, at least in my lifetime, I don't think we're going to absolutely collapse or implode or anything like that. There's a lot of innovation that's still happening. Just take the AI, for example. Our companies are the companies leading the way for the most part, Now, do I think that just this AI-driven reopened market, you could say, and I'll get to why I said reopened market, is really like the new wave and everything? No, I don't. I'm going to lay out a bull case and a bear case. So let's start off with the bear case, which I don't think a lot of people are making today because, no one wants to look dumb when the stocks continue to rip up and you're the only one beating the table saying, hey, things are going to go down, right? So the bear case is this, guys, is OpenAI has been around for quite a while, for at least 4 or 5 plus years. And nobody really made this big of noise for it since Microsoft decided to dump a few $1 billion into the company. And really at its core, what is it doing? It's just a language model that's spitting language back out at you. That's not, it's nothing crazy. It's been around. They're just, now they're doing it in a way that is digestible for the average person. And it's blown up because we've all started to use it. And I guess this is the advantage of being a first mover, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all kind of like creatures of habit, right? Like whatever, we end up doing and whatever network and whatever system we get on, if it works decent enough, we kind of tend to stick with it. It's very hard to get us off. OpenAI has taken that first mover's advantage. It's partnered with Microsoft. Microsoft's integrating it throughout their whole platforms. And then you got companies like Google that are fumbling over themselves with their horrendous rollout. Right? It's basically a rollout that's racist against white people in a sense, right? And they're widening that lead for OpenAI. Okay. But do I think that the tools available to us right now in AI are so revolutionary that it's going to displace, millions of jobs? No, not yet. I still think we're far off from there. It's developing and building to that, but it's not here right now. And I think we've priced in too much. And I think what you're going to start seeing is a little bit of it, not a little bit. I think you're going to see a bigger contraction from some of these names. And remember, everything is all linked, right? OpenAI, Microsoft invests, Microsoft moves. Okay, so who makes OpenAI's parts? NVIDIA, right? So now NVIDIA starts booming up, right? And who needs all of the parts to also be able to compete in the in the AI space? Facebook, and you got definitely Google, right? Amazon's going to jump in, Tesla's going to jump in, everyone's going to be buying these NVIDIA chips. Now, boom, NVIDIA is skyrocketing again. But there comes to a certain point where the supply does meet the demand, and then you're going to really see how much thirst is it really for these companies to buy these purchase orders. Right? And I'm kind of jumping around, but trust me, it's all tied in. You got to remember, these bigger companies have such big balance sheets. It doesn't make sense for them to buy back stock when their stocks are at like crazy all-time highs. They can't find places to put this money right away, right? So what's the next big thing is they have to build their own infrastructure, and they're like, hey, we got $10 billion, $20 billion sitting on the balance sheet. Wouldn't it be smart to buy $2-3 billion of these GPUs and get our own AI, get our own servers up and running? And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing the top, 500 S&P companies and some of the NASDAQ jumping in and being customers of NVIDIA. At the same time, you're seeing competition start spinning up for this, right? You're seeing Intel jump in. You're seeing Microsoft jump in, just like Apple did with Qualcomm. They started making their own chips. Governments handed out lots of money over the last 2 years under the Biden administration to also get into this chip game. Now, do I think NVIDIA has a lead? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to keep their lead? I believe they will. But do I think they should be valued at $2 trillion right now? That's debatable, right? Where is the real value of this thing? And look, the support level for NVIDIA is at $775 a share. They're trading at like eight something right now. If in the next 4 weeks we see that price hit 775 and go below, watch out. I don't know where that price will fall, but it's going to come down. And with it, the overall market will come down. And you're seeing it happen, right? It went from the Magnificent Seven, and now Tesla jumped out, right? Apple jumped out. They've gone back to retracing. And you're going to see the other names start pulling back. And then you're going to see then the overall market come down. That's my prediction on it. So that's the bear case, is like, there is going to be a time where that supply meets demand, right? And is there enough of a push for AI yet? I don't think there is. I think we're in the early stages of it. We're like in the dot-com bubble. The best example I could give, the best correlation I could make, one was Cisco. When Cisco servers were supposed to be everything and you need to build out your system, there was a cheaper, faster, better way to do it. Cisco got squished and it never made it back to their all-time high, not even today. Then you look at AT&T and all these other telecom providers that went fiber optic crazy, and they built out this whole fiber optic schedule. They were 10 years ahead of the curve. They built the infrastructure. Nobody really used it until they built the tools up to be able to use it. I think that's where we're at with AI right now. I do think NVIDIA is going to be a great player for the very, very long run. Do I think it's a little bit expensive right now? I don't know if it's expensive right now because there is still demand from these big companies doing those purchase orders. What I'm saying, in the next year and a half, 2 years, when everything else slumps, and then these bigger companies have to retract their spending, right? Like Facebook did. They retracted from VR and all that. They retracted. Now they have as much money to spend right now because they're tightening. Are they going to be spending on NVIDIA? That is to be seen. My bet is, yes, they're going to pull back. Everyone's going to pull back. NVIDIA is going to see a slump. Do I think it's going to go down to like 500 a share? No, I think it probably bounced somewhere between 600, 650, 700 in that range. And especially in the next quarter, we're going to see where the deliverables are if the market is still hot. And it's going to be a market event, guys, for the next like 4 to 6 quarters, next year and a half, until NVIDIA slumps on one of those quarters. Everyone's going to be like, what did NVIDIA do? Is it pushing it forward? And you're going to see small rallies based on positive momentum, or you're going to see small pullbacks based on negative momentum. It's really going to ride the wave. NVIDIA is the base of it. But all of these other companies, I have to see real innovation. I got to see a real tool that we could use for real people. And I'm not saying they're not going to build it. I'm saying it's not there yet. I don't know where that. I wish I had a crystal ball and I could see, this company is going to make this, cool innovation that's really going to change everything. It hasn't happened to a degree yet where it's displacing thousands and thousands of jobs. Is it happening in certain fields? Yes, it is. Like there's a company, I'll give you an example, called UPath, right? What does UPath do? Install software. And a bunch of other companies are doing this, not the only ones, right? So don't go out and crazy buy this, do your own DD. But I'm giving you an example. What UPath does, you install the software, enterprise software. For example, they're installing it in a lot of hospitals. And when a hospital employee is typing in all the information across like 600-700 employees, that system is starting to realize, UPath is starting to realize, like, wait a minute, these tasks are redundant. We could create this software for you, or we could automate this by this, and we could save you on your labor because you don't have to have a human do this. An AI could do this, or an application could do this. And it's been net positive for all the companies that have downloaded that. That's a positive way that you're technically using artificial intelligence, right? So there are companies being built, but I just don't think they're at that level yet. So where's the bullish case? The bullish case is you're going to get ahead of the curve right freaking now, right? So I'll give you the bullish case. Bullish case is, no doubt in my mind, China's coming after Taiwan Semiconductor. When that happens, it is going to be a nightmare for the market overall because we don't expect war. It's not priced in. we as humans kind of see that they're plotting and planning, but algos haven't picked it up yet. And we still have to have some real news happen, like, warships coming out and some shit's going to have to happen in order for that to really take fruition. But it's going to happen. I have no doubt that China is going to do it sooner than later. And when it does, are we going to be up and running? Because remember, the semiconductor company in China or in Taiwan, they're the backbones of all of our chip manufacturing. We're trying to hurry that up here. A lot of the production capabilities depends on that company, right? So that the geopolitical side is for me is like another, I guess, a bearish case, I should say. But the bullish side of it is, hey, look, all these companies are innovating. All these companies are having this speed. All these companies have the smartest people working on it. They're going to create tools, and it's going to come faster than you think. And the market looks out into the future. So the price you're paying today is not going to be a discounted price. You're paying the price today for what you think it's going to be in the future. And the future changes every day as new information becomes available. And right now, 100%, NVIDIA is way ahead of the curve. And there's a great podcast. I've said it a million times. You should watch it. It's called The Acquired Podcast, and look at their NVIDIA episodes. And one of the coolest things that people don't understand, the software side of NVIDIA, which is growing like crazy, not just their data centers and their chips. The software side is, if you're Boeing and you're making a new airplane, what you're going to be able to do is engineer that whole airplane in the software. And you're going to be able to run it in the software, and you're going to be able to simulate wind, and you're going to see what little wind feathers hit what type of tail, the tail of the plane. What if we tweak this 0.3 centimeters? Are we going to get better fuel efficiency? Oh, we are. They could run hundreds and thousands of tests in a matter of seconds. That's going to save millions of dollars for Boeing and R&D, right? And it's a net positive for everybody. Same thing as once all of these failed drug companies, if you could take all of their data and compress it down and have a machine run something and say, here's all the cancer research in the world. What are we missing? What should we look at? How can we solve this problem? Where the hopes is the computing power gets so strong, AI says, oh, fucking, the cure to cancer is Y equals MC squared. And you're like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that's the cure to cancer. I don't know, right? That's the hope. That's what we're betting on, is that it's going to revolutionize the whole world. And if that side of it is true, and you could get in right now at a $2 trillion valuation, does it really matter? Because NVIDIA will be on its way to 10 trillion if it could reach that. And not just NVIDIA, all the other companies along the way are going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, probably even billions of dollars. And that's like the bullish case. And that's another bullish case for America overall. You might say, which I'll talk about the deficit here shortly, but you might say, we have this deficit. Like Biden just came out with 7.5 trillion in spending. America's only collecting 5 trillion. Where's that 2.5 trillion come in? It's debt. So how do you get rid of debt? Well, you either buckle down and you strap up cash, which nobody wants to do, or you grow the fuck out of it, right? It's always like, if you're looking at your personal life and everyone's saying, you're living above your means, you're going to go bankrupt. Yeah, you probably are. So what do? You grow your way out of it. You double down on your business. You go figure out another hustle. That's you're either going to go bankrupt, or you got to cut back and scale back, or you grow your way out of it. And another bullish thing that for the American economy is like, hey, this AI revolution, we're going to grow the hell out of it. The S&P 500 is so cheap because majority of the S&P 500 companies are going to be able to use some type of AI software to save money on their bottom line. Those profits are going to come back in, and therefore making everything more valuable. And not just that, when more money is generated up top, we're going to get higher tax collection. And then there you go. There's no problem with the deficit, right? And speaking of it, so those are the two cases. And look, I'm not saying I have the answers. I just think sometimes we get caught up in the hype, right? There is a real price that you should be paying for something, and you got to figure out what that is. That's your job as an investor. You got to look at it and look at all the data and the statistics and your research and your homework and say, I think X is a fair value, and here is why. It's as simple as that. Not simple. There's a lot of work to do there. Looking at data, looking at your balance sheets, looking at your debt, and making some type of predictions of what the company realistically can do. And then you say, you know what, I think per share, this is the price. That has to be up to you to determine, right? And so everyone is going to look at it in their own type of way. And sometimes, your bias are going to be in place. The way I look at it is just like, sometimes we get caught up in the hype, and you kind of got to realize when the hype is happening. And that's very hard to do because past just the actual dollar amounts invested, we have our emotions invested in it too, right? Because you want to be right. And it's hard to pull your emotions away, but you got to make your best decision. There's no easy, and it shouldn't be easy. We're making money here, right? We're making money. There's risks involved. And everyone is going to have to risk at their own appetite. You're going to have to, figure out where you're willing to put, your mouth. If you're saying this, are you going to back it, or are you just, talking out of hot air? I don't know. That's up to every single person to determine. Now, when it comes to spending, this is, and it comes for companies, it comes companies, and it comes for countries, it comes for us as our own individual households. We all have our threshold. We all know what we can and what we can't get away with. And to me, man, I have a very simple rule on spending. I don't mind spending money if it's going for a good cause. And I feel like that's the same feelings us Americans have about our government. If we're going to go negative $2.5 trillion, we're going to borrow that money from our future selves. I don't want that $2.5 trillion to go to war and destruction and rebuilding. No, I want that $2.5 trillion to go to our schools, our roads, creating jobs here, making our economy better. That 2.5 million should be an investment in America that's going to pay 5, 6, 7, 8 times dividends over the next 4 to 5 years, right? So if we take that $2.5 trillion and we invest in, not high-speed rails, but actual roads, right? We expand train tracks, we expand highways, interstate highways to have commerce be better. We invest in 5G infrastructure where we can to make data faster so that other companies can build upon it. We can build better products and services. That's the kind of spending I want to see. I have no problem with that because you have to spend in order to grow. The spending we're doing, where money is leaving, it's not helping the American people. I don't see the benefit in that. I don't. And I think it's wasteful spending. And I think majority of people can agree with me saying, we don't want to spend wastefully. You wouldn't spend wastefully in your own personal life, right? If you could write a blank check to yourself for $500,000, I guarantee a lot of us would say, hey, I'm going to take that $500,000 and let me go invest it, right? Let me go buy a piece of property. Let me go try to, invest into a business or put it in somewhere where I can get a return. Then I can live off of what the fruits of my labor. Why should our government be operating any different? Whatever we're investing, we need to see some type of return. And look, I'm not saying it has to be all dollars and cents. Sometimes you just invest in people, right? Because it's hard for you to spend, let's say, $1 trillion upgrading all public schools or putting police or having a federal police program or a state police program that you fund out to keep those kids safe in school, right? You can't really measure that for dollars and cents, but you can say if we give our kids, a future to have better education, a safe environment, and we let them think and we let them problem solve, who knows how many good things could come out of that? Because we know what's going to happen if we let everything deteriorate. We know what's going to happen if we don't have our kids educated and they can't read, they can't write, and they can't compete in this big world. We're going to fail, right? So I'm not saying it always has to be, hey, I gave you the government put $1 into something and needs to get $2 back. It's not always that. It's more so of like, make the investment in America, dog. It's our tax dollars. It's like if you had money coming into your household and you spent it on your side chick or you spent it on your second family, how is your family going to feel about that? So why is our country any different? It just blows my mind. I don't know why we can't look at that logically and rationally and say, yeah, that's not right. It blows my mind. And so with the data that's going to be coming in tomorrow, my bold prediction is going to be that I think we'll probably see another quarter basis point hike before we see a cut. Unless the data comes in and they fudge the numbers. I'm not saying they fudge the numbers. Don't fact check me. I'm just saying sometimes they go back and they revise numbers a month later, but then the markets kind of forgot about it because it's worried about the next month. And you can't, hey, put a little here, put a little there. Hey, who's the wiser? Who's the wiser? You know what I mean? And sometimes they play these games. But if you look at what's going on in this world, I'll give you a perfect example right freaking now. We are rebuilding or rehabbing a new car wash or a car wash that we bought. We're trying to make it brand new. We had a deadline on March 1st. They said, if you don't pay us our down payment, costs are going to go up 15%. I said, 15%? You got to be shitting me. How the hell does it, I thought inflation was 3, 7, 6% or something. How 15%? What's going on? Those are real world problems. That's a real world scenario. And then I called a bunch of other manufacturers and they say, yeah, we're raising 8%. We're raising 10%. And I'm like, well, why are we going up this high? That's on a $2 million project. If you're going up 15%, my boy, that will kill you. You will die. So luckily I was able to, and me and my partner were able to send the payment off and secure our, equipment at the price that we got. But what's going to happen to the next guy that's building? And if inflation is coming down, why are these prices going up astronomically? And I'm sure you listening to this in your own field that you're in, wherever that might be, you will probably see on your balance sheet or your coworkers telling you some type of cost is continuing to go up. Well, if we are in a place where inflation is supposed to be coming down or staying even at 3% or 4% or wherever it's at, why are costs still going up by almost double digits? And, it doesn't make logical, rational sense, because there's a way to look at the world with the Wall Street lens, and then there's a way to look at what's actually going on in your country. And I'm telling you, what's actually going on in your country is inflation is still, it's still here. It's still with us. It's still being impacted on daily citizens' lives, right? We're feeling that impact, right? And until that gets stabilized, or even we see a little bit of a regression, I don't think the Fed can cut, or they shouldn't. And be careful, because if they do cut, hard for me to say it's not political, right? If they do cut, they're going to cut sometime in June, and then, things are going to go a little bit higher, and then they'll say, hey, we're going to, June, July, August, September, it's very close to the election cycle. Right? They say, hey, we're paused. We probably will do another cut at the end of the year. Markets rally again. Biden gets out there and says, hey, look, we're back on track. Vote for me. That's what I think can happen. What should happen is we should look at the data. Look at the data. Is the data saying, fudge, inflation's still here? Okay, inflation's still here. Should we up the interest rate a little bit to try to bring it down, or should we let it ride out still and wait for a little bit more data to come out? Logically speaking, you should probably wait for a little bit more data to come out. You don't want to do more harm than you possibly could have done already, right? But with the political pressures, I don't know. I think what should happen is probably one more rate hike. And the reason why is to set the tone in the market, saying, we're the Fed, just like Paul Volcker did in the 80s. We are going to do what's right for the long term, not for the short term, not for an election cycle, not for anything else other than what is actually right to do as our job. Our job as the Federal Reserve is to keep inflation low, right? And keep labor, and control the supply of money was one of the tools, right? So your job is to look out for America's economic best interest in the future. And that sometimes means sacrificing on the short term to have a better future. And if they compromise themselves with that, then, 100 years of Federal Reserve history is blown out the door, because then that's going to open the floodgates to every single president saying, well, if you're not going to lower rates, or you're not going to play ball with my administration, I'm going to give you the boot, and I'll put somebody in that will push it that way. And I think that's a very dangerous thing for America. And remember, let's not get into conspiracies and all this and that, but for better or for worse, the letter agencies, sometimes they do stuff that's directly against us, but they have a vested interest in keeping this whole thing going, right? We don't interfere with them. And I look at the Federal Reserve as that. It's an independent, agency. It's going to do its thing, and it needs to do what's best for us in the future, not what is best for us right now. Because remember, the biggest takeaway that I could give you when it comes to monetary supply is money can destroy nations. Okay, money can destroy nations. You will have, or the Federal Reserve does have the tools to bring an economy up after it's fallen. It does not have the tools to fix runaway inflation without having very dramatic impacts to your society. look at the Weimar Republic, look at anything in South America. When you see inflation go rampant, your society is just deteriorated, man. It's very hard to come back from that. But if we go to 12, 13, 14% federal discount rates or interest rates overall, it's going to hurt. A lot of people are probably going to lose their shirts. But when asset prices readjust, we come back down, we have a way out of it. How's the way out? Then you cut. We get to rebuild. But if you cut too soon and shit runs too hot, forget about it, man. It's gone. There's nothing there. You can't save yourself from that. And I think that's one of the things that is so dangerous that we're not paying attention to. And on so many levels, because we're continuing to print debt with our rates being high. And the scariest part is, God forbid, but we ever get into a level where we can't afford our debt and we have to print money to pay debt. Oh my God, really forget about it, my G. We are done. That's literally what happened in the Weimar Republic, and I don't want to see that happen to our country. I really don't. And I think we need to get a little bit more responsible. I think we need to tighten up, baby. We need to tighten up. It's the spending has gotten out of hand. And like I said, I'm upset about the spending being so freaking wasteful. Right? Emergencies funding, $50 billion to Ukraine. For what? Hawaii still burnt down. Flint still doesn't have water. East Palestine's been destroyed. Where are these places getting help here? You have an opioid crisis running all across the country. Our border's wide open. We can't find money to fund that, but we have money to go fund something else. That's just another rant for another day. You know where I stand on that. I don't want to waste your time on that. You guys hear it all the freaking time. I'm just trying to deliver somewhat of some content that you're like, hey, I didn't think about that, or hey, he has a point. Maybe help you make a little bit of a better decision. That being said, I'll wrap it up with my Instagram rant, man. I mean, dog, what am I supposed to say, dude? Your boy got, shadow banned, and it is what it is. Like, I mean, I never thought I'd get to 100,000 as fast as I did. I'm very, very thankful for that. But it's also, and like I said, it's disheartening. I don't want to continue to cry about it. I'm just going to keep pushing and doing what I'm doing. But in my opinion, are they clamping down on people that are in favor of conservative views? Yeah, I really do. I really do feel that. And I feel that as this election cycle continues to grow, they're going to clamp down more and more. And what can I say about it, man? And, something's going to have to be done with not having our voices silenced, but it has to be a fine line where we don't give up so much freedom. I'm not for the overall, government stepping in and saying, Facebook, you need to do this and that. You want to know why? Because Republicans might come in and say, you need to do this and that. But when the Democrats raise power or get into power, they're going to do the opposite. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be a fair way of being able to say, hey, look, okay, this thing was misinformation. Give me a chance to make it right. You shouldn't be punished for having a view or an opinion. And if you posted so many posts that are correct and you get one or two wrong, you're a human. You should have a right to be able to correct your mistakes and say, hey, you know what? My bad. And I'm not against fact checkers. I'm really not, because like I even use when I see a crazy post as fact check, I'm like, oh shit, okay, that's the real story, right? There needs to be a balance. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it has to be 100% one way or 100% the other. It should be somewhat fair, like give us a chance to be able to correct our mistakes. And obviously, if every other post we're posting is factually incorrect, then we have a problem, right? But if out of every, 1,000 posts or 500 posts, one ends up being fact checked because, the facts were presented in a way that can mislead somebody, then why do we have to have a strike against our account? Why can't I just have the fact check there? Like, how egregious is it, right? How egregious is that? There's a bunch of little layers to this that I think need to be worked out over time. And I'm voicing my concerns because I think it is important. I think if you continue to drown people out, that people then feel like, fuck it, I don't want to say it. I don't have a, voice. Well, those voices are going to get out somewhere. I'd rather have extremist voice online so we know who the extremists are, right? Than have them hide and meet, in the middle of the night and plan some crazy shit. I mean, that's just a thought. I don't know, something to look into, right? And, really, to me, it really comes down to like, how egregious is it? Is what you're posting causing harm, destroying lives? something like that, then yeah, then, oh, whoa, but if my thing is I put up a video of Biden getting heckled, and then the video in the background says Trump, 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 and then Biden goes, okay, and you're going to just say, oh, the video was audioed. What the F does that have to do with anything? It's a joke. Like, how is that? You know what I mean? Like, that's not, but whatever, man. Like I said, I think that we should take a hard look into it. I hope it doesn't get political. Like, I mean, it has, right? I can guarantee that more conservative accounts probably have been shadow banned more than liberal accounts. And where am I getting this information from? Well, from the Twitter files, right? Like, we know that's factual now, right? And we know shadow banning happened, right? But yeah, I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And I don't think you can have a proper democratic society or democracy if you're not willing to hear all sides, right? Democracy only works if you're also willing to tolerate those that you don't agree with. I'll leave it at that, guys. I hope this 31 minutes of your life, you've gained something from it. I appreciate you. I really do. If you did, if you could share this with a friend, I really appreciate it, man. And, I'll catch you guys on the next one. And feel free to DM me if there's ever a topic you want me to cover. I'm more than happy to talk about it, man. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.